Hello and welcome back to Doctor Who The Eternity Clock. And we're on part 5 now, and now we're inside the Cyber Factory. And just to talk a little bit about the Cybermen here, the 9th Cyber Legion, I'm not really sure what their current status is. Because we had the original Cybermen from Mondas, we had some other Cybermen from a parallel universe, and apparently, I'm not sure if this has been confirmed on screen, but apparently those two Cybermen forces have mixed. So there's just one Cyberman force now. The new slicker design, we saw in Nightmare in Silver. But, yeah, I can't really back that up, honestly. I don't really, that's just headcanon, really. I mean, it does seem that way.
Thermionic conduits, quick blast or a fiddle from your sonic and Bob's your uncle. We can use them to climb up.
Bob's not my uncle.
So who is your uncle?
The uncle.
Is that a thing?
It's a tiny little thing.
I'm not going to take that as canon, necessarily. Yeah. That's another thing about Time Lords, which I guess fans of only the TV show wouldn't necessarily know about, but apparently there's a book called Long Barrow, and it establishes that the Time Lords have different family structures. And let me see this. So when a Time Lord is born, they're actually weaved in a machine, and they're weaved from all the family members' DNA. So I guess technically a Gallifreyan would have like hundreds of parents or dozens. And as a result, everybody's sort of cousins with each other if they live in the same family house. Which is, I really like that actually. It's really alien. But I don't think that will ever be in the TV series. Because something else about this sort of Long Barrow explanation is that if this was true, the Time Lords Gallifreyans I should say, would never be children. They would emerge out of these looms fully grown. And in the Stephen Moffat era, and in the Russell T Davies era, we saw Gallifreyans as children. And not to mention this whole loom explanation, it was only introduced in the book. It's not mentioned in the classic series at all. And even then, not everybody's happy with this explanation. So when it comes to this whole looms, ways of reproducing, I don't think we'll ever see it in the TV show. And I think some fans will be happy with that. And it's kind of strange because I like the explanation rather more than just having Gallifreyans have traditional families. Because when I watched the classic series, when I finally caught up with it, as you went along, the Time Lords got less and less interesting. They were this mysterious, omnipotent race in the war games. And when you get to the trial of a Time Lord, they're all bickering bureaucrats and incompetent as well. Actually, that's the whole issue with the Gallifreyans in the new series. I'm sure the newer fans, or fans in the new series, I should say, I'm sure they think the Time Lords are like this mysterious, fantastical race. And I want to agree with them. I think if they ever have them back, that's the way they should be depicted. But again, I was sort of worried we might go down the same route as the classic series and just have them come back and not be interesting. Because I think the thing about the Time Lords is they are the Doctor's native race. They should be, at least, they should be the most interesting species in the entire series, probably. But they're not. So. Anyway, I've been talking so much about the lore of the show, I've missed what we're doing. And these puzzles here, it's like a Swedish horror movie because you let the right one in, and that was terrible. But yeah, as you can see, you sort of go left and right and open these notes. And try and build up the blue bar, which is at the bottom of the screen. See, the thing about these puzzles is that they do repeat themselves. It would have been nice if each race you face had a different style of puzzles to make them different. But yeah, I see this puzzle here. The Daleks use one quite similar to it. How about these Cybermen? I'll have to admit, I think the Cybermen, they're one of the best ideas for a monster in Doctor Who. They're the second most popular, and some people would put them as their favourites. And they are. There is something horrific about these metal men that will snatch you and cut you up, essentially. But I would agree with the modern criticisms that they do seem very robotic nowadays. I would say that essentially, if you're a casual fan and if you mistook a Cybermen for a robot, I couldn't blame you. I really couldn't. But then again, I'm going to be really purist about this and say that the Cybermen's best appearance was in the 60s. The ones in the 80s looked a bit cheesy. Granted, there are some really good stories occasionally, like Time Lash. But they sort of turn into jokes, unfortunately. Oh, something else about the Cybermen is they do have, in the classic series, they had their weakness against gold. Or to be more precise, the idea was that gold was a metal that didn't break down. And of course, since they were more human back in the old days, they still breathed through their chest. And that was the whole idea, that the gold would clog up their breathing apparatus and choke them. But when we got to Nightmare in Silver, he's put like a gold sweet wrap on his face. And the Doctor's fended off the Cybermen again. You know, this commentary is getting really into the whole classic Doctor Who discussion here. And I think that's fair enough. It suits the game. Because I would say this game's alright, but it becomes a lot better if you're a fan. And anyway, you can get it cheap nowadays. I bought this for like under £10. So I would definitely say it's at least worth trying if you are a fan. Available on the PS3, Xbox 360, I think. Oh, and also the PC via Steam. You can, yeah, I jumped for joy. But seriously, I did find that that sequence there a bit dodgy. Yeah, and in terms of difficulty, this game isn't really that hard. I think this is one of the few sections I had trouble with through replays. But other than that, you can get through the game without dying fairly easily. In fact, honestly, I do die, but only a couple of times. Oh, and there's infinite lives as well, so even if you do die, you just gotta redo the last section again. So hardly any consequences. Oh man, that one was intense. Oh hello, River. Ooh, the cyber controller. I really like this sort of redesign. He was in the classic series, but as I recall, he was just like a he didn't look like a Cyberman at all. He just looked like a computer thing. You know, this sequence now is really good, actually. There's a tower, and one of you goes up, one of you goes down.
Oh, come on, River. It'll be a double.
What's that? Up there with the
Stomp, stomp.
I don't know, but it's got a huge temporal signature. What are the Cybermen doing with something like that? We need to reach that thing. Find out what.
Yeah, unfortunately, this does show off one of the, I would say, lame elements of the plot. Because it's just a MacGuffin chase. These enemies have these mystical items. Let's get them then. Okay.
Sector clear. Proceeding. Intruders have infiltrated Central Core.
And right round the back here is another item. There we go.
All resources to deletion of intruders.
Delete.
Delete.
Delete. Honestly, I must admit, them shouting delete, I'm not too keen on. I don't know why. It seems like they're trying to emulate the Daleks who shout exterminate. A death! Did you see that, audience? I was standing right behind him.
Thermionic core. Defend processing systems.
Yeah, I just realised the Doctor does have a really consistent game plan when it comes to taking out enemies. And it sort of sneaks in and hacks the computer. So honestly, this puzzle-based platform is fairly fitting of the Doctor's MO. Let me see, a hat to the left, a book to the right. Although I will admit, these Cybermats are some of the most annoying enemies. I would say it's probably because they're fast. And of course you can shoot them or stun them with the Sonic, but it's probably best just to avoid them completely.
Area secure. Continue patrol.
Continue patrol. Announce plans loudly. And there we go, now we can move on with the level.
Efficiency. Processing information.
Yeah, the Cybermats just make this sequence a little bit harder. And speaking of the Cybermats, I've forgotten which story they appear in. It's possibly the Wheel in Space or the Moon Base. Yeah, I get those two stories confused. But yeah, they're little things that run little errands for the Cybermen. They've never been replaced with Cybermites, which are, like these, are a lot smaller. Which honestly makes me
No time to stop.
makes me wonder if the Cybermen have become overpowered now because they can fly. I've said this before about super speed, and people compare them to Iron Man. Which, by the way, having like Iron Man like creatures on a British TV budget is hilarious.
Intruders must not reach power source.
Because they have them fly in the new series, and I would say it's done well, but if you look too hard, it's not quite believable, the effects. And to me, maybe it just seems unnecessary. Like, if you can do good things with the special effects, do them, but if you have the Cybermen like move more Frankenstein-like, I think they can actually come off as scarier. And then if you have them move that way, you don't have to even worry about them flying. And this sequence fairly easy. You sort of move the balls around on the circular plane, and then bring them to the centre.
Systems failure. It is the Time Lord known as the Doctor.
No, I'm the Time Lady known as River. Oh, don't bring that up. Yeah, again, I'm going to bring up a bit of a continuity thing this time again. It's that in the classic series, and in all the other material, Time Lord is a rank, not a species. Gallifreyans are born, and if they achieve that status, they get turned into Time Lords. Now, granted, I think this process is kept fairly vague. But what they do is, in Series 6, they establish River became a Time Lady. Because she was conceived in the Time Vortex. Which makes me just go, huh? Although then again, I think the Time Vortex is poorly defined in the new series. Again, it was poorly defined period. I mean, is it like a level of existence you enter when you time travel? Is the Time Vortex like a whirlpool? It's created when you travel through time? Does it actually look like the opening sequence? I was so surprised in that when I saw it in Utopia, when they travel through the Time Vortex, and it actually looked like the opening sequence. I was like, oh, I thought that was just the intro of the TV show. No, but apparently that's what the Time Vortex actually looks like. What? Anyway, now that I've got the book, I'm going to finally move on to the top here. Just... oh, these bloody mats scurrying around. Anyway, when it comes to the Cybermen, I want to say I like them. I'm not too I don't think they've been handled too well. Like, I think that one of their best stories is Spare Parts, which is actually an audio story done by Big Finish Productions. And it goes back to the origin of the Cybermen on Mondas.
Defend power source. Critical priority.
So yes, it does feature the most primitive of all Cybermen. But it's a really good story. Because it really gets across the horror of them. Right, now we just have to complete this pizza here and we're off. This, if it reminds me of the game Frogger, where you're trying to cross the road and you're just trying to dodge the cars. There we go.
Thermionic core overloaded. Power source disconnect.
Does not compute. Does not compute.
Terminated. We are destroyed.
Anyway, this part has become really ranting about me going about the history of the show, all the details. I bet if you're a casual viewer of Doctor Who, you don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. Oh, this minigame. Okay, with this we passed the first act of the game, and this one's sort of self-explanatory. Ooh, earned a trophy. Deleted. Yeah, I think that's if you complete that Cyberman section in under a certain time limit. So as long as that took, I still did it fairly quickly. The instructions here, you sort of rotate the steps in front of you, and you sort of have to make a full sequence. Like this one, there you go. And together that makes a square, so you can move forward. Although you don't have to make a complete shape. You just have to make enough so you can step from one to the other. And I'm struggling here. Is this time vortex meant to be the opening sequence of the 11th Doctor?
I've got to keep moving.
Which, you know, a lot of people don't like the Thunderstorm opening sequence of the 11th Doctor's intro. And I would have to agree. Nah, actually, I mean disagree. I'm confused. No, I like it well enough, but I would still say that the best opening sequence is still the Russell T Davies era. But anyway, I might come up with a new part, I might not. It feels different this time.